Your most committed clients by now have already checked like 3 different AI tools that flashed out an entire 90-day action plan, troubleshooting guides within 30 seconds. So here's the million-dollar question that every purpose-driven, heart-centered coach, guide, or mentor need to be asking themselves. Why should someone pay you? Those who will thrive in this AI era, full of regurgitated advice, people trying to like fish in the sea, in the ocean of sameness, are going to be the ones who use a content strategy for coaches that addresses what potential clients can't look up on Google or check any of the AI tools, and that's what they don't know. A lot of the people who keep creating content consistently, sometimes 3-5 times a day, but still struggle to get people into their programs, have to run a ton of sales calls to actually get those yeses, are the ones who keep focusing on what their client already kind of knows or conceptually understands, because that's what they're looking for, not what this video is going to tell you more about. So in this video, I'm going to be showing you how to leverage what your ideal clients don't even know that they should be knowing, the reason that they might be stuck, and what AI can't replicate, understanding how people make decisions and speaking in a way that aligns with how they process what you say. And I see a lot of invisible coaches spending hours and hours every single day thinking about the next post, the next idea to post about, being so hyper focused on the content that they may not be realizing, despite all the content out there telling them don't overeducate your audience, don't overwhelm them with things that they already conceptually understand, that don't move them towards a sale, that likes, people telling you how inspirational your stories are, or people commenting that they want your stuff but then they never end up clicking, buying, or signing up for a call, don't equal bank transfers. And if your bank balance constantly goes up and down, depending on the month, because it doesn't convert clients consistently because of how that ecosystem is set up, which is ultimately what I teach to all my students as a messaging and communication coach for heart-led entrepreneurs. It doesn't just send you and your nervous system into a constant spiral, wondering if you should keep doing this, thinking about quitting and just going back to a 9-to-5, looking at other alternatives or ways to make money and make an impact on people. It also robs so many people, aligned, committed clients you could have helped if you saw the cracks in your understanding of what leads to an actual sale. Now, neuroscience tells us that about 95, some studies even say there's more, % of our decisions, actions, and then results depend on the subconscious beliefs that we hold. So while you're busy sharing the next strategy, inspiring them, sharing your personal story, your potential client, while looking at your content, checking out your emails, looking at your sales page, thinking about booking your call, is making these subconscious micro decisions to either get closer to that purchasing decision or further away from it. It's all based on what you say and how you say it, your product suite, and how the different services that you offer are clearly communicated and how they are all set up. The emotional state that all of these trigger, the sales pages, emails, content, and everything else. How complex what you say is, how much safety your presence, your brand, your words, the way you communicate and educate creates for them to take the next step, essentially to commit to buying. If you've been creating content consistently for the past 4 to 6 months, knowing that you can deliver incredible transformation to your clients, because there are clients who are raving about your services, but your DMs are still a ghost town unless you are the one constantly reaching out, which kind of feels like you're begging for other people to work with you instead of them coming to you, sliding into your DMs, asking, getting excited about how to work with you. You have to, at this moment, stop being the next content creator in the ocean of sameness with everybody creating content, thinking they somehow cracked the code of content creation, and only speak to people's logic that gets them to like, comment, save, becoming what I call a decision architect, but essentially gets all my students inside Impact My Membership, 3,000 clients, right into their DMs, no convincing, forcing, no sleazy tactics needed, not even running sales calls all the time. Back in 2020, I started posting as a language coach. Every single day, I poured my soul into every single content piece, thinking about sharing my own journey of like how I learned 5 different languages, going live even when no one was watching, and I had to drink like a shot of vodka because I was so nervous about having my face on camera. I flashed out entire strategies, ran webinars, invited people to come on and like join workshops. My old triggers of never feeling like I was ever understood got triggered, and I felt incredibly invisible. I could convert a few clients, but I wasn't able to sustain a consistent revenue every single month through my content, and I didn't even know why things were working, why other things weren't. And I just kept telling myself like, why aren't they getting it? I'm literally flashing out everything that has worked for me, that has worked for thousands of my students back in London when I was working and built my own community. It wasn't until I stopped trying to be the best educator, show up as the different teacher who has this like revolutionary program, and started understanding what actually leads to the neuroscience of what leads to commitment, payment, becoming my client. Everything changed. They didn't commit to learning because every time I said something like, yeah, but you should listen to podcasts to kind of get used to how people speak the language naturally, their voice in their head said, oh yeah, but they speak so fast, it's impossible. When I told them you need to be speaking the language consistently, they were like, oh sure, you could do that online. I could just like set up a meeting and just join and just randomly speak to people, even if they weren't really consistent with that. Or when I said, well, you just don't know how to learn a language because no one showed you how to do that, they will be like, of course I know how to learn a language. I get my textbooks, my apps, videos online, and I like sit down for 2 hours a day and just like memorize vocabulary. Of course I know how to learn, even if that's like the least effective way to learn a fucking language. Now these tiny little voices that pop up every time you say something that goes against what they currently believe, if you don't speak to that and address them in your content, will be kind of a brick wall that no matter your strategy, no matter how much value you share with them, how many times you invite them on a call or a webinar, you won't be able to convert them. Neuroscience says that these are based upon all these deeply ingrained beliefs, neural pathways that protect people, keep them in the status quo, and protect them from doing something that's outside of their comfort zone or feel like too much work. You could think of it as opposed to currently what their autopilot is running on, which is like a 5-lane super highway that's highly developed, as opposed to your ideas that you're trying to like blaze a new tiny trail in the jungle full of ingrown bushes and shrubs that they would have to cut through. It's harder to think that way. So those excuses that my audience kept telling me or kept thinking, sometimes they didn't tell me, aren't logical. They were just automated beliefs that showed up as truth, but they never took off the autopilot. And logic doesn't stop the autopilot thinking, doesn't make people think, look, what you've been thinking so far doesn't quite relate to, isn't helpful with, or empower you on this new path that you want to take, and the reason you don't have the results. But think of most of the coaches, most content creators out there. What is their content always be like? Statements, facts, sharing opinions. All of that speaks to the logical part of the mind that has zero power in making a different decision, wiring new habits, or creating a new identity, all of which happen at a subconscious level. All I needed was understanding that adding more information in an age where people know how to do that doesn't position me as a thought leader, as the next coach that people want to buy their high ticket, low ticket, all kinds of programs from. It's going to be when I use a specific sequence of information, considering how people make decisions and process information, which is all based on neuroscience, and that's what I teach to all my students, that dismantles all of their resistance against the path that you're offering before you even plug your offer. And once you understand these 4 invisible drivers that created the baggage that your client is already looking at your content with that shape your next client's decisions. The content finally stops being the next content piece that's just like nice to read and great to comment on and an amazing content piece to put next to the 1,746 saved content pieces in their saved folder, and starts becoming impossible to ignore for a committed, aligned buyer who's already desperately looking for a solution to their problems. But because nobody in their space ever ventures into belief shifting, perspective shifting, they don't know what is holding them back, and starts becoming impossible to ignore, because you will be one of the few coaches in your space who will be doing this, a magnet for aligned, committed clients who are already desperately looking for a solution and will be willing to do everything it takes, because it will get them the light bulbs they needed that no one else in their space showed them. Now, the first category of these is speaking to the collective beliefs, myths, or misconceptions that people just look at everybody else is operating by and they assume that to be the norm. For example, most people don't live the life they want. They believe that they have to work in a 9-to-5, they have to earn X amount of money or have a car, or I don't know, spend Fridays and Saturdays with a bunch of friends who they don't even feel like going out with, because that's what people think successful life is all about. So think about what your ideal client assumes to be the right way to get the results, because we want to target people who are already trying, they've already invested in stuff, they have already been burnt, but they are so frustrated, they really want to get that result, but they just assume that there is a right way, there's a norm. Are they trying talk therapy when all they need is an identity shift? Are they chasing numbers on gym machines when to get the lean body that they want, they might just need a different kind of movement? Your job with your content in this case, and ultimately the reason I devised my 5-step neuroscience-based belief shifting framework, is to stop their automatic thinking and get them to think, oh shit, have I been doing this all wrong? Then there are the norms. Norms that used to work maybe 20, 50 years ago, but many people still believe that that's how the world operates. People just still assume that that is the only way, because that's just how it's always been done. There's a whole movement on the internet telling everyone to just grind, hustle their days through, work for 14 hours to get the 9-figure business within before they are even 25, all rooted in this old capitalism era belief that wealth can only come from grinding harder without considering the cost. So ask yourself for the ultimate content strategy for coaches. What norms are my soul clients operating by that might have worked 10, 20 years ago, but now just keep them burned out, overthinking, and no closer to the results they actually want? The third one, and I think this has grown into one of the biggest blocks to client conversion in this day and age. It's the regurgitated, overgeneralized guru bullshit lies. Even the World Economic Forum named misinformation and disinformation among the top threats to humanity, because our subconscious works in a really weird way. It doesn't automate what's good for us. It doesn't care what's good, what's right, what's wrong, what's helpful, what's damaging. It automates what we are exposed to repetitively, just like all the gurus out there sharing all the bullshit. You should never give everything away if you want to get paid, or you need to wake up at 5 a.m. every morning, do a cold plunge, otherwise you won't be successful. These simply lack the context and the nuance that your perspective shifting content could provide, so people finally realize they've been operating and they've been misaligned because of lies they never chose to believe. And when you call out these guru lies, it doesn't just position you as someone who actually understands how your space works, builds your authority because you understand what voices they are exposed to and how they are absolutely not credible, while helping your most committed clients finally take their thinking off the autopilot. And just like everyone, just like you and I, everyone has their own limiting beliefs, disempowering beliefs, based on what happened for them, but they always think about it as to them in the past. Now, inside my membership Impact, I always audit my students' content to ensure there are no cracks that potentially their best dream clients, committed, aligned clients would slip through because they overlook addressing questions like, have you shown them why the last products, last services they tried, other coaching, masterminds, therapy, failed? Have you shown them why your framework is super safe and it's not what they think? Many times when there's something new or a combination of different things that they might not have heard of, they have their own misconceptions. They might think it's scary, it's too hard. And have you named the exact fear that they have by trying just one more thing and then getting disappointed again? Addressing all of this means you are creating a lot more safety with this transformation that might still look unfamiliar to them through belief shifting content. And guess what's going to happen when all the path is clear? They'll happily buy. I hope this helps you shed some really bright light on what's going on and the most powerful, most magnetic, aligned content strategy for coaches in this new era with AI around. How you can go beyond what all the other coaches and mentors and guys are doing with their templates, their scripted content, and constantly looking at what everybody else is posting about because they ignore the absolute necessary element to conversion, the client's internal world, and speaking to their model of reality to create safety. If you want to see how it's all done in practice, you can join my upcoming webinar. There's a link in the description, the first link, where I'm going to be showing you the entire framework my students use to get those 3K clients into their DMs, and also 3 of the most common mistakes that even those coaches make unknowingly, who use belief shifting in their content, letting all those amazing aligned clients slip through their messaging, keeping them stuck at the same revenue level, making them feel like they have to keep grappling for students, they have to fight for the next client, and still struggling to use social media to create a converting ecosystem that gets them clients on a consistent basis. And let me know in the comments which of these 4 different aspects of limiting beliefs you're going to make sure you address more in your content. I'm always curious about how you approach your own content as well to get clients. And thank you so much. I appreciate your patience to watch this till the end, and can't wait to see you in another video. And start becoming what I call an decision, come on, fuck. And start, and I don't know the words for this, fuck. This is I'm always rambling. So I myself have also, come on. When I realized that all I needed was just a, come on. A real purpose.